The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors. Warning! This program contains strong adult language, violence, and brief nudity. It's everything you're looking for. Live from the Sims Tower in the Robinson Auto Group studio, we are AM 1600 WKKX.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Whispers Radio here on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog, and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network.
Thank God this is not TV. Y'all.
Well, I wish the webcam was working.
I'm so glad at this moment that it's not.
Lola, I can dance.
Oh, yes, dear.
Was that not a good dance?
Yes, dear. That was wonderful.
I was shaking my groove thing. Shake my groove thing.
Oh, some things get momentum going, and it's really not a pretty sight.
I do my like pre-show activities. Lola just doesn't agree.
So how are you today, Jordan?
Wonderful. How are you, my dear Lola?
Almost drowning. My goodness, I think we need an ark.
It's rained, and I told my dad. My dad went to Florida for the last week.
Yeah.
And he's got the pool, and I was like, oh, I'm getting in that bad boy, because the previous week it was like 90 degrees every day.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to go swimming at all.
I know.
It rained and stormed and thundered and. Oh.
Well, at least it'll give you. You're going to have to clean it. Because I'm sure it's filled with twigs and leaves. And
it's not too bad.
No?
No.
My back deck sure
It's
was.
full.
I bet it is.
It is full.
Oh, my. Yes. My beach is gone again.
Again?
Again. Because the water's risen so high. Again.
It could be worse, that island.
True. It could be lapping on my front doorstep. It's not doing that.
You should write a book called Wheeling Island, the Next Atlantis. You like that?
Yes. It could very well be true at some. Thank God John has the party barge because he can come and rescue me. Although, did you hear what they named it?
What?
SS Todd Jeffers.
Oh, yeah.
After our Todd, yes.
Oh, that's awesome. When did you get that?
2 weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah. Great deal. Pontoon boat. It's got a little motor on it.
The SS Todd Jeffers. That's cool.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
That's real cool.
Yeah, it is.
Todd.
So.
He was I think he was the best commercial we ever had.
I know it.
I think the last hour of his show was all talking about us. It was like a good
I know it.
best interest music ever.
Yes. Miss Todd. And they said it fits the boat because he loved to party. He loved flamingos, and hence the pink flamingos. They're for the boat. But
I was wondering what the big pink flamingos on the door were.
Well, they are now adorning our studio. However, they are going on the boat.
The studio is the SS Todd.
Sometimes I think he's here with us.
All right. For those of you who don't know, my name's Jordan Cline.
Yes, it is.
The lovely Lola is over there. You know.
It is.
With that pretty voice. And the awesomely late Mike Drzako.
Always. Let's see what one
I don't know. He's on blue somehow.
Okay.
No,
yeah,
red.
Somehow. Wait, make up your mind. There.
I'm sorry.
Mike's joining us.
Jeez.
What's up, kids?
Good thing you don't get paid by the minute.
All right.
Sorry.
Mike is going to be joining us for the show. For those of you out there.
I'm used to 6 o'clock in the morning, not 6 in the evening.
Yeah, he was here at a different time.
Right.
Mike's going to be doing the show with us. He's going to be a new co-host. He's been with the station for a long time. He's done a lot through the community. He's been on the show several times with some of the activities he was doing. So it's going to be a fun edition. He's a very creative man. You're going to hear.
Well, we hope he is.
My goodness.
For the shake of the
Are you trying to court me?
He's got some pretty eyes.
Thank you.
We're going to be doing a new segment. We're going to be starting some show segments here at Whispers. And one of them we tried to start last year. It went as far as one episode, and we're going to be rekindling that. It is the Ghost of the Week.
Well, that was resounding.
Well, we had entrance music, but Lola played it at the beginning of the show.
Well, I thought that's what you wanted.
Is that what you were dancing to?
Yeah.
Yes.
I
I thought
missed
you
that.
wanted it for the show start.
No.
See, we'll
You
work
have
on
to clarify.
We'll
Yeah,
work on
I'm
this communication
bad.
stuff.
Hey,
Yeah,
it's
it's
new.
called a pen and paper.
Right.
I
See,
did
Post-its.
write. My notes just suck.
This is your note. This is the note. This is our show notes.
You're right, like a serial killer. My goodness.
Well, it happens. Anyway, new Ghost of the Week this week. Well, actually, we got two.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a big week.
Today was Ryan Dunn from
Yeah,
CKY, Jackass.
This is terrible.
Viva La Bam.
I saw it this morning on the CNN ticker. I was like, wow.
Yeah,
I mean, you had to figure out at some point in time one of these guys is going to bite it. So.
You just would have thought it would have been more creative.
Right, I agree.
Yeah.
Or at least on tape.
Well, there could be
It's gonna be-
CCTVs out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Jackass 8.3 is going to have Ryan on it.
Yeah, well, apparently he was twittering. He twittered a picture of himself drinking about 3 hours before his fatal crash. So I wonder what played into it.
Yeah.
I wonder how suspicious his death was.
Right, not a whole lot of investigative work needed there. Just look on his tweets.
Seriously.
Then our other one's the sax player for the E Street Band.
Now this one breaks my heart.
I love
Jackass,
Springsteen.
Yeah,
I love Springsteen.
I know.
Such a good songwriter.
I'm not a fan, so it's
Oh,
okay.
We'll forget you.
Yeah, seriously.
How can
So,
you,
what's
how
the
can you
guy's
not
name?
like the boss? I don't know.
Clarence.
I see. I can't. My internet only works like halfway
Periodically.
in this building. So like every 5 minutes, everything shuts down. So I can't search it. But I know he was a.
All right, so more about Ryan Dunn now. I'm just kidding.
Go for it. Yeah, TMZ said that he was speeding in his 2007 Porsche 911 GT3. I think if I had that car, I'd probably be speeding as well.
All right, it was in Pennsylvania too. I don't know where exactly in PA.
Route 2 or 322 and New Street.
I think they
in
lived.
West Goshen.
I think it's closer to Philadelphia. I don't know.
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought that they were from near the Philadelphia area.
That's
all those
what I
guys.
thought too, that it was over in
Right.
Eastern PA.
So they said that they couldn't even identify the other victim.
Really?
And
Was
so
it
actually,
bad?
there's a third this week. We just don't know who they are. So on your little chart there.
That's well, he
Unknown.
didn't tweet who else was on the in the car with him.
No, so that's a mystery.
Drinking with unknown.
Clarence Clemens.
Clarence Clemens. Okay.
Yes. No, that's
Right.
the E Street band
right.
guy. Yeah.
How what happened to him? He just
Heart attack, wasn't it?
No, he had a stroke last
Stroke.
week, and then I don't know what happened, but that's what.
That's sad. The boss.
one of my favorite moments in life was related to Jackass and Todd Jeffers.
Oh, when
Well-
Todd threw up in the
Yeah, we
show.
went out to see Jackass out at St. Clairsville at Carmike, and they were doing one of their bits, and Todd just threw up his arms and said, "No mas." He had enough. He was done.
See, and he tried to talk me into going, and it's like, Todd, I don't think so.
Yeah, it was bad. It involved, I think, a horse and a bucket, and
Well, Ryan Dunn is the one that he did the golf cart crashes, and he's the one that stuck the toy car.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ryan, out of all of them, I think Ryan Dunn was probably one of my favorites. He seemed like a really nice guy. Like out of all of it, like I was thinking Steve-O was going to bite it. Dunn seemed like a nice guy.
I don't
Didn't
know,
seem like
Knoxville usually went out there too with some of the.
right. Well, after Knoxville got a little bit famous, I think he kind of held back a little bit. But I always thought Steve-O. I think Steve-O was pretty much on everybody's celebrity death list. So
One of
him
the-
and Amy Winehouse and that group.
She is back
Yeah,
in
I
the
saw.
saddle again.
Yeah, did she not?
Yeah.
Did she cancel?
Yes, she had to. She couldn't stand up.
That's a problem.
Yes, it is. When you can't remember the words to your songs, or better yet, people can't understand what you're saying,
Right.
you've got some problems.
Usually, you want the crowd to sing along, but not the entire concert.
Well, Bob Dylan, he had concerts. You couldn't understand
The
nothing he
last
said.
time I saw him, it was like, I can't believe I actually paid money to come here. They had to give me- and that's how he was. You couldn't understand a word he said.
Because he's old now.
At first, I thought, it's all these mudslides I've been drinking, but everybody else said the same thing.
That's why I never went to go see Hootie and the Blowfish. I opted out.
I'm still trying to figure out who let Hootie sing country.
I tell you, but at least I can understand him now.
He's not bad.
I think he's good.
I do, too. I like him doing country.
We got the guest on the line?
Yes, we do.
All right. Our guest today, Mr. David Sereda, we are talking about, well, he is a founder of Voice Entertainment, director, producer, filmmaker, photographer, author, and public speaker. He has a book called Evidence about UFOs. We're going to be talking about that. David, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
How are you today, sir?
Pretty good, just very busy guy. I got a newborn baby girl running around the house.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah.
It's running that quick?
Well, she's bigger than she should be for her age. She's very, very strong, and it's quite a journey here, just coming into the world with a newborn and almost 50 years old. So I was a little slow at having children.
Well, that'll pick up quickly. Believe me. Are you getting any sleep?
Yeah, but I have to sleep when she sleeps, and so I get up at as early as 4 or 5 in the morning, and then go to bed at sometimes even 7:30.
Yeah. Oh, I vaguely remember what that was like.
It's good times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, your book, Evidence. First, I don't have a lot of information about your book. I spoke with your publicist there for a while, but I want to check. Have you personally had UFO encounters?
Well, yeah, I'm Canadian, grew up our whole family moved to Berkeley, California in 1964, 4 brothers and mom and dad getting his PhD in psychology at the campus. And, I watching Star Trek as a little kid in those days, and walking home from school one day, elementary school, not far from the Berkeley campus, I've noticed all these people in a pandemonium on the street pointing up at a flying saucer, and I thought we had those things back then. I thought because the USS Enterprise was on TV that it was all real. And today, people would dream of seeing a flying saucer as close as we all saw it that day. It was very, very close, and it was metallic, and it was shimmering, and there's no way you could mistake it for the Goodyear blimp or anything like that. Now,
really?
I built Revell model airplanes and cars, so I had a good sense of detail.
Now, what shape was it, David?
Saucer. Clear, metallic saucer shape with a little dome on the top. But it was very mercurial. It almost was like liquid metal. There were no markings anywhere on it.
Really?
And it was close, close enough that there's no doubt you knew what you were looking at. And the pandemonium was intense. I mean, nobody freaks out over the Goodyear blimp or an airplane flyby anymore. And I remember in the 60s, people did get excited when the blimp went by, but this thing was unbelievable. And it literally, after 15 minutes, just blinked out in a flash so fast. It was gone. It was out of our dimension. And my mom was in the middle of a divorce at that time and remarrying a military man, David Cooper, science teacher, and we moved to a new house in the Berkeley Hills, and I began having these dream experiences where they were telling me they were from the Pleiades star system, and here's how our craft works. But I'm only 7 years old, and I'm now watching My Favorite Martian, those comedy shows about aliens. So I didn't really know what to make of the experience. There was no such thing as ufology. I didn't know who to talk to. But the experiences were kind of terrifying. They were human, completely human, but I was paralyzed. I couldn't move my arms and my legs, and I would, scream in the middle of the night when trying to get my legs and arms to move.
Wow.
But they were, this is a physical experience, and then jumping flash forward, years later, I'm interviewing, we have, in my film with Dan Aykroyd on Unplugged on UFOs, we have astronaut Gordon Cooper testifying, that he chased flying saucers in Germany post-World War II that outperformed him in every way. And he became obsessed on the subject and also was pursuing, actually was funded by Disney to develop and work with scientists who were developing ideas or concepts on anti-gravity. So he never let it go, and they ended up filming a flying saucer landing on the dry lake bed at Edwards Air Force Base in, I think it was 1958-ish, in that area. So it's not far from my experience, 1958.
Wow. Mike has a question real quick.
Well, no, my question was, did your sighting happen over like a residential area? Was it over top of water? Where did it take place?
Oh, it's right over the East Bay, very densely packed residential. And not only that, the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab is right up on the hill. We have Lawrence Livermore over the hill, and the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, jumping flash forward into the early 90s, I'm having lunch with Glenn Seaborg, who chaired the Atomic Energy Commission under Kennedy, Johnson, and Nixon. And that lab has a perfect bird's-eye view of the saucer. And I told him about the sighting over lunch, and I said, this lab would have had a great view of the sighting. And he said, well, with something like 37 levels above top secret, Seaborg, him and Macmillan, discovered plutonium, the explosive type of plutonium, won the Nobel Prize, and he chaired and basically, sat through all of the nuclear testing in Nevada. Very, very powerful man. And he took me very seriously. He said, I don't know anybody working on anti-gravity, and he said if anybody was doing anything like that, we wouldn't even need to be pursuing nuclear fusion. But what's even more amazing is I really believed him. I really believed he didn't know anything about the saucer. But because it happened to me and it was physical and real, I kind of became obsessed with the phenomena. And years later, this is only 2 years ago, I was speaking at a UFO Congress in Nevada, and a scientist who was attending, many scientists attend UFO conferences, it would kind of blow the public's mind who is at UFO conferences. NASA scientists, Lockheed, they're all there. And this gentleman approached me and he said, I work at the Space Lab up in the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. And he said in 1972, we all saw a flying saucer right outside the window.
Really?
And I just went, wow, what's your name? Talk to me. And he just disappeared.
Wow.
So
now have you ever, because I'm really interested in like the Men in Black phenomena. Were you ever engaged, I guess, by one of them?
No, I've never been engaged by the Men in Black. I've had a lot of mystical experiences, and I've exposed a lot of inside in government agencies on the subject of UFOs in documentary films and radio interviews, and gotten into some trouble. And I would have thought they would have showed up, but nothing like that. Nobody has intimidated me or anything like that. Because
David, you are too powerful. That's funny. Now your book Evidence. Let's talk about it. I'm guessing by the title you have some evidence in there, but what kind of things does it hit on?
Well, I wrote that a long time ago. Evidence, the Case For NASA UFOs, and the DVD. I was approached by a man who was sitting in a wheelchair at a TV station in Vancouver, BC, just recording every minute of every space shuttle mission in the early days. And he started noticing anomalous balls of light moving around on the tapes, and he gave them to me because I had connections at NASA. I had worked in nuclear fusion for about 10 years in this Advanced Physics Corporation group. Seaborg was among them, and I just knew who to send the tapes to at NASA and get a discussion going. And when I started doing that, I knew how to play cat and mouse, and I knew how to, get out of a corner when they were just trying to slough it off. Oh, that's just dust in front of the camera lens.
Yeah.
But then I found an incredible physicist, Dr. Louis A. Frank, who at the University of, I think it's Missouri, he was already dealing with a very strange NASA phenomena that nobody could understand. And Frank was so brilliant. He holds many different PhDs and awards in physics. He's a principal investigator on many of the unmanned space flights that NASA deploys around the solar system. So he's a major scientist. And he knew how to eliminate the dust hypothesis, that it's a little ball of dust floating near the camera or frozen ice crystal.
Now, how's that?
Based on the light curves and intensity in the photography. And he knows, how far away a piece of dust can be from a camera and how bright it really should be, and, he can actually measure it. And he took the tapes from me and measured the light curves, and he said, this isn't dust. And he said, it's actually similar to a phenomena that he was observing. And first off, I remember the UFO in Berkeley disappearing, going invisible in a blink of an eye, not accelerating and flying away at supersonic speed, but just blinking out.
Now I have a quick question with your sighting. Did it just kind of sit there? I mean, because you said it was visible for 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah. No, that's the thing. You see these videos on YouTube of these saucers kind of zooming around and banking. These things don't do that. The real one, they do move from time to time, but they're very stationary. A little bit of drift, but they're not. They don't use the type of propulsion systems we have, so they're not flying and moving and banking like our aircraft do. Just hovering there, and then just gone. So
it didn't
fast.
Zip out of the frame. It just kind of was there
No.
and then was not.
And you see those ones on YouTube too, and so many of those are fake. A real daylight UFO sighting is extremely, extremely rare. The stuff people are putting on YouTube, they make it look like it's super common. It isn't. It's not a good daylight sighting. It's not common. Now, there are some good, big sightings like Stephenville, Texas. And eyewitness testimony, to me, is more stellar than a video on YouTube that somebody could have engineered in a lab. You need witnesses. You need people who saw it.
And people who are credible.
And people who are credible. And so you can say, well, a 7-year-old kid is not very credible, but for me, it turned my whole life upside down. It made me not go down the mainstream path. It made me want answers, and I was relentless. I didn't give up. I used every connection I had when I worked in fusion and also in bomb detection for a small defense contractor. Everybody I connected with, I would run the story by and run other stories by. And then when you find out astronauts like Cooper and Edgar Mitchell and so many airline pilots have seen these things, there's no doubt it's real. There's no doubt that mainstream physicists and scientists don't know anything about life in the universe. There's no doubt that the ones who deny this is real just don't look at good data, and they don't consider whom the testimony is coming from. Like someone like Gordon Cooper, some people say, oh, well, he's a retired astronaut, and what does he know? Well, the U-2 test pilot, flew on Gemini, one of the first men to fly in orbit around the Earth. He was a fighter pilot in World War II. I mean, this guy knows every enemy airplane, make, model, and number. He can spot them, with his eyes and know the name, make, model, and number of that airplane at a distance. I mean, he knows what he's looking at. So if he says he saw double lenticular lens-shaped flying saucers and he was chasing them, then you have to believe him. I mean, there's no better testimony than that. The question is, who's making them? Do we have the technology, and are some of them extraterrestrial craft? And that's where it gets a lot more interesting. With the NASA stuff, you go to a UFO conference, and I give a lecture on NASA UFOs, and I get approached by NASA scientists who give me their card and want to talk. Program manager at Los Alamos National Lab, calls me in for a private meeting, and wants to discuss it further. And I mean, this happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are people who try to disprove everything that you're talking about, saying, "Oh yeah, that's just a blob of light, or that's just this," and it's nothing.
David, what about the Phoenix sighting?
Mm-hmm.
Was that? I mean, thousands of people claim to have seen it. Do you have you heard anything about it perhaps being a hoax, or that it truly did happen?
Well, that story I know a lot of. I interviewed some of the witnesses, but what interests me the most about it, first, I have a very good contact, senior scientist of 20 years at Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin is bigger than Boeing in defense contracts. Then you who worked for Howard Hughes, Texas Instruments, the Shah of Iran,
Wow.
McDonnell Douglas, everybody. And Boyd Bushman is his name. He has numerous patents at the U.S. Patent Office on file right now, and he testified on camera that, firstly, that Area 51 is real, but because so many people were looking in on it, they moved it to Tooele, Utah. And the first place the Phoenix Lights UFO was spotted is southern Utah and northern Arizona. And that is not far from where this very, very classified military test flying base is. But because this thing was a mile wide, the eyewitnesses said it blacked out the stars. And
It was
the
a
military
V shape, wasn't
knew.
it?
What's that?
It was a giant V shape, wasn't it?
Giant V shape, blacking out the stars, and the witnesses started calling in like crazy, and by the thousands. And so they knew it was heading down 17, crossed, Prescott, Sedona, and then down 17. So they knew. And I think they put flares up because they wanted to create a decoy. So there were some flares photographed that had nothing to do with the sighting. And I don't know if the photography that everybody saw in the news with all the lights, if that was the real one or if those were the flares that were put up after.
Now, how do I say? Because you said they moved the base. Do you think that the Phoenix Lights, that phenomena wasn't really a extraterrestrial UFO, but that was a US
well, it was
government
hard
made?
to believe. The size of it's a mile wide, and it's enormous vehicle. But I know other military officers who have testified to me privately of an event that happens in a Utah military base that's classified. They don't say it's the one at Tooele. And they said that everyone is given black these tarps, and the employees that are not allowed to see this have to go under the tarps on the tarmac, and the indoor employees have to do the same thing. And they hear this roaring sound come down, and all these bombs go off, and this massive sound, and this thing takes off, and they can take the tarps off. Wow. I've heard that same story from two different officers, and neither of them know anything about each other. The second officer who told me the story said that he saw it, and it's a giant black triangle that comes down and does this mock-up bombing run and takes off, and he said the thing is a mile wide. So that would fit the description of the Phoenix Lights. The Phoenix Lights craft stops at South Mountain in Phoenix over Goodyear, Arizona. That's where it stops. And Goodyear, Arizona is a Lockheed Martin facility right there. Now, go to Stephenville, Texas, which is not that long ago. I don't have the date in front of me, but it's way after the Phoenix Lights incident. This is probably in the last 3 or 4 years, Stephenville. And again, farmers, eyewitnesses saw this thing mile wide, just above the tree line. No rivets on the metal, nothing. They couldn't see any rivets for how they put this thing together. And it's escorted by F-wing fighter jets. Now, we know Lockheed Martin's headquarters is in Texas, and we know that these jets are not shooting or attacking this thing. Had it been extraterrestrial, there's no doubt that we would have used some very, very classified weapons on that I know all about. And that didn't happen, so that led me to believe the Stephenville one was not extraterrestrial. Now, the same thing with Phoenix. Had it been extraterrestrial, had it been a mile wide, I guarantee you we would have been shooting at it to bring it down.
Well, yeah, if a mile-wide actual spacecraft went and, an entire city saw it, there would be military action immediately.
It's a pretty big target, too.
Yeah.
If it was...
And you would say, that's probably getting ready to attack us. It wouldn't be like, I wonder if they're peaceful with that giant ship getting ready to land on top of our city.
But you wouldn't wait for that, would you? You wouldn't sit and go, okay, there's no radio communication here. They're not telling us who they are. We're going to at least attempt to take them down. We don't know what kind of military technology they have. And it's funny, I just watched the movie The Battle of L.A., and that is really a joke of a movie, because you go to the original Battle of L.A., the earliest American UFO sighting, it probably recorded in semi-modern times, is the Battle of 42. And there were UFOs photographed over Los Angeles. We thought it was the Japanese. We didn't know who it was. It was the very beginning of World War II. and we fired over 1,800 rounds of munitions at it, heavy metal at it, and they never fired at us once, not once. There are documents, alleged documents that I've read and seen, signed by George C. Marshall, who was the commanding officer during the Los Angeles air raids, that state that they retrieved one of the extraterrestrial. They didn't use the word extraterrestrial. They used the word. I'm trying to remember the name of the word he used. Beyond Earth air vehicle, something like that. And retrieved two of them, and most likely they would have taken them to Muroc Field, which became Edwards Air Force Base in 1942. And George C. Marshall wins the Nobel Prize for the Marshall Memorandum, and we know that event happened. We know that from eyewitnesses I've personally spoken to who are still alive in Los Angeles today, that people were told, stay indoors, do not look outside, don't go outside. And
of course,
that
when you tell everybody, don't go outside, don't look, and everybody's going to be like, well, don't look at what?
Yeah, the ones who are curious are going to look, and everybody, there's actually footage of it. There's actually film footage of it. I know who has it, of the real Battle of 42. And that really happened. So again, they never fired at us. They never fired at us in Phoenix, and they never fired at us in Stephenville. And we know in Stephenville they were escorted by Lockheed fighter jets. Now I know from Boyd Bushman, once again, Lockheed Martin senior scientist of 20 years, that he testifies on camera, and Boyd is in his 80s now, that a Navy doctor friend of his, very credible witness, was treating a young pilot in July of 1947 of radiation burns, and the pilot described having a plane being called to fly out of Texas to New Mexico and go after these unconventional aircraft. And he had a super weapon on his plane and shot it at them and knocked them down. And they crashed at Roswell, outside of Roswell, and he landed his plane and went down and saw the aliens. He saw the little bodies, the people. And
so this guy claims to have actually caused the crash at Roswell.
Yeah, no, it's amazing because the weapon that they're talking about matches up with the Tesla death ray. Nikola Tesla, the greatest electrical engineer of all time, invented alternating current remote control, solar-powered neon lighting, fluorescent lighting, the carbon button lamp, which became the electron microscope. He invented the first non-flickering light bulbs, worked for Thomas Edison. Tesla was developing the death ray, which he said, in declassified FBI files, he said it could melt an aircraft engine from 250 miles away. Well, Boyd Bushman showed me a weapon test that is a very advanced death ray today, that you don't see a tracer, there's no laser, there's no nothing, and it just vaporizes a car or a tank. He said a heavy, heavy metal tank.
Wow.
It just melts the engine in seconds, and it just crumbles to nothing. And these are beam weapons. These are the most classified weapons we have in our arsenal today. And this Tesla death ray, according to FBI files that are declassified on the FBI's website, I downloaded them all several years ago, the death ray was in development at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in 1943.
Really?
And the death ray, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is where the Roswell craft was taken. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Now, why would they take it to the same place in the same lab where they built the death ray? And
they wanted to see how it worked.
Because they wanted to match it. They wanted to see what the metal or whatever type of fabric this craft was made out of and how it responded to the weapon, everything. And the death rays absolutely can be confirmed in Tesla's notes. He had a meeting with Roosevelt on January the 8th, 1943, the year he died.
Mm-hmm.
And it had gone into development just before he died. And by 1947, which is many years later when the weapon was used, that's when Boyd Bushman's Navy doctor friend testifies this happened, it all just adds up that that's what happened. Now, there's people like Stanton Friedman who say it was radar that took it down, and you can't take an airplane down with lightning, let alone radar. There were people who say it was a super lightning storm in New Mexico that night and day.
Now, I'm going to go ahead, and I think it's safe to say that if an alien craft traveled trillions of light years away to get here, I don't think the Earth's lightning storm is going to take it down.
No, I don't believe that either, and I definitely don't believe radar. But radar is a good, there's new Roswell document that made the New York Times and everything that came out says that it was radar. Now, that's a great cover because you want to keep your greatest weapon secret in your country. You don't want anybody to know that you have a nuclear bomb until you detonate it, and then everybody copies you. That's what happened. The Russians got a hold of it, and they built a bigger nuclear bomb than we did.
Yeah, we can't let everybody have a death ray.
Yeah, and so the death ray, we have things like that now. I've been inside of RAND Corporation in Santa Monica, and I've seen a brochure for handheld M16 size laser guns, and it's a user manual.
Really?
Yeah, I worked on it. I can't even believe it. I just didn't say a word the whole time I was working on it. Like, oh my God, this is instructions how to use this thing. So if anybody that they've seen all of our best defense, that we hide the best, and we're way ahead of where the world thinks we are today.
All right, now here's I am a conspiracy theorist beyond measure, probably. Why in the world, or how in the world, has the military then sat on things like this that could, we could dominate? We would now I just answered my own question. We would no longer be in Iraq or Afghanistan. But, of course, we all know what that is. That's all about defense spending and the money that's being made off the backs of the soldiers that are sent over there. But I just can't believe that the Pentagon, knowing that we would have even a small version of this, would not be clamoring to get their mitts on it.
Well, this will really blow your mind. I mean, Boyd has told me, Boyd Bushman at Lockheed, that there are many scientists who all they want to do is work on reverse engineering the technology.
Uh-huh.
But four-star generals come in, and they all they want is a weapon. They're like, what kind of weapon do you have that I can help me win this war? And they're like, well, there's this flying saucer sitting in Area 51. We want to spend some more time and money on it. And they're like, I want a weapon. Yeah. And the death ray is our most classified weapon, although there's many people who know we have it. And I'll tell you a story so shocking that ties in once again to the death ray, and that is the Columbia incident. When the Columbia broke up over the United States, there was an amateur photographer taking photos in San Francisco with a little digital camera on a tripod that showed this purple incoming wave in 4 frames, and on the 4th frame striking the Columbia. The San Francisco Chronicle ran the story without showing the photos to the public. And the photos were described, and the Tammy Jernigan space shuttle astronaut who works at Lawrence Livermore Labs, they confiscated the camera, they got the camera, and they looked at it, and they determined that the purple incoming wave was an artifact of the camera, and it wasn't really there. Well, somebody sent me anonymously the real photographs from this photographer,
really?
And I have all of them, and you can clearly see this thing coming in and course correcting at 90 degrees at several thousand miles an hour, faster than even an ICBM missile, faster than a Trident, faster than any of our missiles by far, to catch up to the speed of the shuttle at the upper atmosphere. And it hits it, and the shuttle blows up. Well, years after I got these photos, and I made a report that I'm not allowed to publish, but I do share, and I can send it to you, but the owner of the photographs, swears he'll sue me if I ever publish them.
Well, send them to me, and I'll publish them.
No, we won't publish them. I just want to see them. That's all.
So watch this. Then I get an email from an MIT scientist who streamed his conversation about the photos that I possess with all these NASA and Air Force officers. They want to see them. I send them to them. They send me U.S. government photos of the same purple wave hitting the shuttle.
Really?
With their cameras. even better pictures, which I possess. I have these photos. Those are government property, which means they're public property. I can show those to anybody, and I've never shown them to anybody. And the funny thing is Tammy Jernigan is a liar. She knows she's a liar. She said it's an artifact of the guy's camera when Air Force cameras show the exact same thing. Now, when you see this thing, it is not a laser because it's not moving at the speed of light. It course corrects. It takes quite a bit of time, in seconds, for it to chase up to and catch the shuttle and hit it.
Now, do you believe that was our military? Or
it's coming from further out of space than the shuttle is, and that
do you feel maybe it was like a warning shot?
It could be an ET warning shot, or it could be something from a Russian or NATO or Star Wars gone awry experiment that, from Reagan's Star Wars program on one of our satellites, and it accidentally hit the shuttle. But I don't think it's an accident. It doesn't look like an accident. This thing is chasing the shuttle. It course corrects at 90 degrees at the point that it thought it would hit the shuttle, and then it turns. I mean, nothing can turn at 90 degrees at several thousand miles an hour. There's no physical object that can do that we understand. There's no missile that can handle the G-forces on a turn at that speed. And it hits it. So I have the original photographer's photos, and I have the NASA photos.
Well, let me ask you this, Dave.
I have them all.
What do you think? Let's say it was, a purposeful hit. What do you think the reasoning behind it could have been?
Well, that's what you always want to ask in any crime: is what's the motive? What's the intention? Were we weaponizing space? And here's another thing. I mean, this is so obvious. Like when we said Star Wars didn't work. Mm-hmm. That is a great cover story, amazing cover story for the international military community. I guarantee you it works. I know these weapons. I've seen them. I know.
So do you believe we have that set up?
I believe it's working. I believe it's been working for a long time. But the problem is they didn't want anybody to know. And it's possible what happened with the Columbia was the use of what's called a kinetic weapon. It's not a beam weapon. A kinetic weapon has a munition. It is a physical object, although it's plasma-like and delivers a huge blow of static electricity or some form of energy, and it just shatters its target. It literally just shatters it.
Wow. Could it have been, now this is, when you're telling this story, my gut was saying they were trying to destroy a satellite out in space, and if they were going to pick up on, I don't know, something inside the satellite that would, say, like a homing device, and instead it intercepted the Columbia through like a malfunction or something, that actually it was aimed at something else, and the Columbia kind of got in the way. Like if you would have, like these smart bombs, that...
Right.
So it would have been an accident, kind of, because they were trying to destroy something else, and I suppose I've heard criminals try and use that as a defense. Well, I killed the wrong guy, so I really didn't do it,
But why not wait a little bit until the Columbia passes?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, there was, I have a guy on camera, George Mosman, and he was in Dallas the day the shuttle was breaking up, and he and his attorney were looking through Zeiss binoculars up at the streaming debris, and they saw a purple and a maroon colored and a golden colored flying saucer hovering over Dallas.
Really?
Now, one of the waves coming in the photograph was I'm going to send you the original report, and then the NASA photos. I'm not going to send those out yet. I'm not ready for those to go viral, but people will flip out when they see this. I'm probably going to put it in a documentary film, and everyone will see it. And believe it or not, the History Channel was here. I gave them full access. They were too scared to show it.
Wow.
To the public.
Mike, you got a question?
Well, no, that's what I was going to ask you, is if you could send those NASA photos. You said they're public photos, so we could actually get access.
Well, once I give them to you, they belong to everybody because they're NASA or Air Force photos, and they were given to me directly by MIT. So they're real. There's no doubt. It confirms from a completely different angle.
Wow.
The original photographs were taken by an amateur photographer visiting from the UK in San Francisco. But the Air Force photos are obviously from somewhere else because you can see you're looking at it from a different angle. But it shows the shuttle getting hit. And it might have got hit more than once because some of the photos the purple wave looks different. And so I think it could have got hit maybe even twice. So if it got hit twice, then it's not an accident.
Yeah, yeah.
Then they were doing an exercise, a highly illegal, military test, and using, astronauts as guinea pigs, and that would just outrage the American public beyond belief.
Which is a shame. Yeah, there was a teacher aboard too, wasn't there?
There was a teacher aboard. But so you look at you have an amateur photographer, you have a space shuttle astronaut, Tammy Jernigan, saying that this is an artifact of the guy's camera. Then they tried to say it was super lightning coming from outer space, and I videotaped lightning strikes. And the longest lightning strike I could get was 3 seconds, and that's rare for a lightning strike to last 3 seconds.
Yeah.
But this guy's taking pictures on a tripod, 4 of them apart, and it takes him time to repress the shutter. So there's no way it's all one super lightning strike. That's impossible.
Well, anytime they start, come up with one excuse, then another excuse, and then another excuse, I don't believe a word they're saying.
Well, you're going to believe one of them.
Well, you have the super lightning strike theory, but then Tammy Jernigan says, well, it's not that. It's an artifact of the guy's camera because we have his camera and we have the original digital images. But then when you get Air Force photos of the same thing, she just looks like a complete liar, complete idiot and a liar. So she is absolutely, and you can search on Google the Columbia incident and the purple wave on the San Francisco Chronicle, and you'll see all the articles. There's some good articles about it.
Wow.
But even the Chronicle doesn't know I possess the NASA original confirming photographs. Because, I don't know who will listen. What will happen if I release these photos to the newspapers? I don't know.
I want to see them.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I do too. So please send them to us. We won't publish. We'll just sit on. I'm just curious. And
I think it'd be great to
people
throw
have
up on
the
the
right
website.
to know. They have a right to know. One, we have Star Wars. There is an ET. We have a certain amount of fear. There are a lot of craft visiting our planet. They don't seem to be interested in making a war with us, at least as far as we know.
At least not right now.
At least not right now. If they wanted to, may not. Let's say we got a little craft and there's 5 guys and 5 women, and they go to Mars, and there's a few people left on Mars. I mean, there's only 5 people on that craft. They can't take over a population of 7 billion people.
Oh, yeah.
So we're not that easy to take over, even if you have nuclear weapons. It's still not that easy. I mean, you can't just wipe out a whole planet unless you have some super virus or something. I don't know.
I've seen some crazy movies.
Well, the movies are crazy. The movies are crazy.
Do we got a question, Lola?
no, that was Barb.
Oh.
My favorite movie is Close Encounters of the Third Kind. My favorite
classic
movie of all time.
David, I hate to do it, but we are out of time. We got to cut to CNN.
Well, I would like to invite you back again because there's something else I wanted you to talk about, and we just ran out of time, and that is 2012 and the energy theories that you have. Mm-hmm. That 2012 fascinates me. I mean, I lived through one end of the earth, and I'm going to live through another, I think, in October, but, do I buy Christmas presents, if the world's going to end on December 21st or not? So I really would like to, have you back on again and talk about that.
Okay.
All right.
All right. David, thank you very much. Where can we get your book?
Well, my book on the NASA UFOs is at lulu.com/David Sereda, and my films are at voiceentertainment.net. And I have my energy pendants at lightstreamtechnologies.com.
All righty.